What do you get when you take some therapists and put them in front of a screen to watch something creeping back from childhood that should have never been for children or preteens? They're gonna dive right in and reassess those flicks. What's more scary and disturbing than you realized and gave you nervous tics? They're the movies that traumatized us.
Talking about The Lost Boys tonight, so I hope you guys are super excited. Because, there's nothing like vampires and a little bit of trauma to go along with that. So, with me, of course, as always, is Nicki, and we're the therapists who sometimes traumatize you instead of the movie.
So yeah, we're talking about Joel Schumacher's The Lost Boys, which came out, I think, in 1987.
That sounds about right. And honestly, this is a classic. If you're out there and you haven't seen The Lost Boys, I'm sorry. Everybody should have seen this movie by now. I say that knowing that not everybody has seen this movie. but this is one of those movies that's just super iconic. I think is the best way to think of it. It's just a very iconic movie. It has its moments of ups and downs. It's got like that 1980s interwoven love story with the big hair and the crazy clothes and everything else. I mean, this movie is definitely 80s.
It's very much an 80s cult classic, and also it challenged a lot of norms. There's some like homoerotica going on in there. It's also challenging the nuclear family that was coming out. That was really big when the Reagan administration, just coming out of that, and so they're challenging how you see families. It was originally going to be Peter Pan with vampires.
Yes. Can you, I'm just trying to imagine Peter Pan with vampires. Let's think about that for a second. Peter Pan with vampires.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too far off, because technically, if you're looking at how people analyze it, that Peter Pan's really dead, and he's just a Grim Reaper. Bringing people over to the other side like a psychopomp.
I mean, that's fair, but then how do you explain Captain Hook?
I didn't read that whole analysis. I couldn't tell you. He's Satan.
I mean, there was a lot of that whole Peter Pan was just an allegory for death, dying, and going to the other side. That was a well kind of established thing with Peter Pan. On the flip side of that, though, if we talk about vampires in Neverland, in this case, The Lost Boys, it's really about bringing people to your point of view. In this case, that's really what the boys are after, is bringing everybody sort of to their point of view, and as you said earlier, it really does challenge a lot of the norms, and a lot of the norms that it was challenging, sadly, I think are things that we still need to challenge today, which is, quite frankly, don't be fucking sheeple. Because that's
exactly.
The boys see the people as sheep. The boys see the people as sheep, cattle, whatever you want to think of them. That's they're mindless drones to the boys. That's how the boys picture the humans that make up Santa Clara.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the problem, right? Is that they don't have an understanding or a vision about the wider world anymore, because these people are just sort of these self-absorbed, mindless sheep to them.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at it from not just the boys, the whole gang of vampires, but also from the Frog Brothers' point of view, they think everybody are mindless drones as well, because they're not seeing what's actually before them. Like the dangers that are in Santa Clara.
Right, absolutely. And that is, a huge, one of the bigger problems. I think it's funny. I'm looking at this still that you have.
Which still.
So I'm gonna pull it up here because I don't know if I've got it centered. This particular still, it kind of cracks me up. Like all of their faces, they try to make Kiefer Sutherland look as like dark and evil as possible. It didn't really work here, but notice that everybody else is just kind of staring off into the distance, like what the fuck.
Exactly. Just like, okay. A funny thing with Kiefer Sutherland, when Joel Schumacher went to him, he was like, "Hey, I want you to have long hair." He didn't really say whether he wanted it white or not, but then Kiefer Sutherland took it upon himself to make it short on top and to bleach it out. So it was kind of like the Billy Joel rocker punk thing, and he had the mullet before Billy Ray Cyrus did.
Well, I mean, a lot of people had the mullet before Billy Ray Cyrus. Billy Ray Cyrus tried to bring the mullet back. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. So, but I mean, so the thing that you guys can't see on the media screen here is that part of this title plaque for them, because this is one of the movie posters, is sleep all day, party all night, never grow old, never die. It's fun to be a vampire. They like, it's really kind of weird because they're trying to like, I mean, I'm okay with it. They're trying to glorify being undead, like being a vampire, because I mean, I don't know about you, vamps are my favorite mythological creature. Like, if a vamp came up tomorrow and was like, "Hey, you want to turn?" I'd be like, "Sign me up. Let's do it."
I was all about vampires in the 90s when we had the vampire Lestat and Interview with the Vampire.
Good old Lestat. You know, we could do Interview with the Vampire. There's some really interesting concepts to explore in Interview with the Vampire, especially with the turning of the girl.
Oh yeah, with Claudia.
Yeah, I can really pull Claudia apart. Like, not her, like, because she becomes a vicious killing machine, but rightfully so. She's stuck in a child's fucking body. But the fact that we turned her, like,
why did we turn her to begin with?
uh-huh. Like, what was the point of that? Because that's a little, it's a little perverse.
Joey?
It's a little pedophile in there. Like, just a little disturbed by that one, because after 100 years, is she still a kid?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
She's not really a kid anymore after 100 years, but that's not
I would
how
say,
society
like,
would see her.
emotionally and mature-wise, no, but body-wise,
Yes.
still a kid, which is interesting because they did turn a kid in Lost Boys.
They did. Yes, and we will talk about that at
The Attacking Betty Munster.
Yeah, we will talk about that as we get further down. But the other part of this title plaque, you know, not to get too sidetracked, the other part of the title plaque that was being wild is in their blood, which means like they're trying to say that like, oh, of course they're rowdy boys. It's okay that they have toxic masculinity. It's just part of who they are.
Boys will be boys.
Exactly. That have no consequence, right? It's just who they are. It's okay. They're just being boys. He likes you if he bites you on the neck. What? Okay. But I mean, you know, that being said, there's a title plaque for you. Like, I just think it really weird that like that was the thing that they decided to go with on this movie poster. So I thought it was great that you pulled it, because I was like, wow, I haven't seen this movie poster in fucking forever. Like the fact.
Yeah,
that
I actually tried to get stills this time.
I see that. I'm quite pleased by the fact that we have stills. Because next, you know, so the movie starts with the boys. Well, actually, it starts with the family moving to town. Right? That's where we start at.
Yeah. They start moving to town. His mom, or the mother, moves in back with her father, Grandpa, who's a fabulous character, by the way. I can't wait till we talk about him.
Grandpa needed more screen time than he got.
He did. Grandpa, was the comic relief of that movie. So were the Coreys to a certain extent. But, Yeah, they're moving. They move in with their grandfather after they just got divorced. Mom's trying to find work. The boys are trying to find a place to fit in because new place, new schools, new sets of friends, and they're different ages. Like Sam, who's the younger brother, played by Corey Haim, is what, like 12 maybe? 12, 13?
12. I thought he was like 13, 14.
Okay, I could see that too. And then you have Michael, who's played by something Patrick. I have it in my notes who somewhere. Ugh, and I even watched like a whole thing. And I'll figure it out later. But Michael is like an older teenager. So
Yeah,
I'd
he's
say
like he can
17.
drive, so he's like at that age. So he's around 18 because he can drive.
Yeah.
So this is the 80s, so 18 was the driving age. We hadn't lowered it to 16 yet.
What? I thought it was still 16.
No, in 87? No.
Okay.
I'm almost positive that the driving age was not. You're gonna make me check. You know that, right?
I'm not gonna debate it, but I really think it's been 16 for a long time.
In 1987.
And it would depend on the state too.
1980s had graduated licensing, so you could be 16 and take a driver's test and be allowed to drive, though not with teen passengers. And that still usually required parental supervision at night. Something that he clearly didn't have. So I think he was 18. I'm
see that.
pretty sure he was 18. Although he does take Grandpa's car without permission, and Grandpa was trying to get his game on.
Yeah, he was.
Grandpa's the best. Grandpa honestly is the best character in the movie. Like,
he's a super sex positive character. He's all about embracing your inner weirdo. I love Grandpa.
I think one of my favorite lines from Grandpa, honestly, not to give too many like spoilers to the end of the movie, but one of my favorite lines from Grandpa is at the very end of the movie when he's like, "That's the only problem with Santa Clara, all the damn vampires," and everybody looks at him like, "Why the fuck didn't you say something earlier before people
Like, you
moved
knew
here?"
the whole fucking time.
Like you knew this whole time, when you just sort of like never said a fucking thing about it. Way to go, Grandpa! Like that's literally how used to vampires Grandpa is that he didn't think it was worth mentioning. He was like, "Yeah, vampires are just a normal part of living here, so it ain't no big deal. I don't need to say anything about that. It's like walking down the street and seeing a stray dog. You know, everybody's used to that." The fuck, Grandpa? Like, so the kids get to town. Mom moves in. Mom wants to find a job. So they go down to the boardwalk. I'm not sure why everybody decided to go to the boardwalk to look for work. I get why the boys went to the boardwalk. To find friends.
I think it was just the thing to do.
I guess it's kind of like going to the mall, I guess. Like, in California, I guess going to the boardwalk was the thing. I grew up in a landlocked state. I have no idea. I don't have a fucking clue. I guess the boardwalk was like the thing to do instead of going to the mall.
I grew up in Georgia, so it was the mall or Starbucks or the movie theater. Or the skating rink, depending upon how old you were.
See, the skating rink was a big thing for us, too. I'm actually surprised that we didn't get a skating rink scene in this movie.
This is true, because that was really huge in the 80s. It was still big in the 90s.
I mean,
in fact, I still know people who are going to the skating rink now. So.
Are you kidding me? When I was that age, when I was a kid, when I was in middle school to high school, I loved the skate rink. We used to have this skate rink called Skate Castle. And it's where this was the thing to do.
We had Sparkles and Dazzles.
Sparkles and Dazzles. There you go. Now Skate Castle is a bunch of little shitty shops. They just piecemealed it out and turned it into this weird storefront thing. They didn't tear the building down or anything. They just turned most of it into storage and then sectioned it off into the front for these store shop front-facing stores, and I'm like, this is terrible. What did you do to my skate rink? Like, where's my sweaty skates and that horrible, like, chip BO smell and, like, God, like, skating around the rink at, like, fast as you can to, like, Ghostbusters and shit? Like,
Right.
those were the days. Look at me dating myself.
They're at the boardwalk, and, like, our first clip shows the...
I think I have
the oiled up saxophone player Tim Capello singing "I Still Believe." I don't know why, but it cracks me up. Cracks me up so much.
This is also where the boys meet Star, who was just coming onto the screen when we pulled away from the clip. I still don't understand the sax player. Like, what the hell is up with, like, the whole oiled up here? Let me flex my abs while I play the sax and I sing at the same time. Like
apparently this person was like a big deal then to get a hold of, and
I don't even
the
remember
actor
this
said
guy.
that they like oiled him up before he went on.
Let us slather you in baby oil. We just want to feel your rock hard muscles. Oh, so nice. Oh, so nice. Those muscles. Oh, so nice.
But they Michael especially like sees Star and like just zeroes in on her, which I thought was Charisma Carpenter. It is not. This is not Charisma Carpenter.
See.
It was like it's Gemma something.
Gemma something?
Gemma Gertz.
Gemma Gertz. Okay, that's a name for you, Gemma Gertz.
Gemma Gertz.
Gemma Gertz. Oh my, what a name.
But then they have like that stereotypical "we're going to stare at you and lust at you from afar" moment that 80 movies like to have.
Yeah, and then he gives chase. Is that part of the scene?
I think so.
Let's see if it is. Oh yeah, so here's the weird, like, I'm gonna stare at you from afar scene.
His brother's like, "What are you doing?"
So, like, I just don't, like, to me, I don't see it. Like, why did we sit there and, like, stare?
It's like that flirting from like that old time Victorian flirting from afar, where like you stare and you look away, and then if she had a fan, she'd like have that own like secret language with the fan.
Right,
she
but instead she's like, like, what the fuck? Like, I forget how campy this movie can be. But here's the thing, like, this is the setup for the, like, little love story portion of the movie, because of course back then, I mean, even to some extent now, we still always have to have the romance in the movie, which I really don't understand, because I mean, I'm speaking just purely for myself, like, it gets old real fast.
I mean, I think that this movie, if it were remade, they could probably take out the love triangle with Star, because honestly, once you get into like seeing the boys, they're not really interested in Star all that much, besides that first like macho scene between Michael and...
Well, the boys aren't interested in Star because Star was supposed to kill Michael was supposed to be her first feed.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't really... Star wasn't anything to them other than just another vamp.
Which
Like,
plays up like the homoeroticism part of it, because they really weren't interested in Star at all.
they really weren't. Like, Michael was the only one who was interested in Star.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I want to sink my fangs into you. Like, he was like... He was
And does eventually.
Right. And so, okay, so we have this scene. He gives chase. He loses sight of Star along the way. And I can't remember. You've got this one next, and I think this one happened the next day, right? When Sam meets the Frog Brothers?
No, that happens at the same time.
So this happens before this event, because this happens during the day. Because the event was at the Star meeting. Michael meeting Star was at the end of the day where they went around looking for jobs and places to fit in and belong, or things that were like their jive, their groove, their thing.
Was there any more to that clip with Star?
No, he just stares at her and she stares at him and then
runs off.
Runs off.
Yeah, I thought Kiefer
we don't
was
even
in
get this. We don't even get the chase scene where he like chases her through the crowd.
Okay.
We didn't even get but that's okay.
The clip for this movie were hard to find,
which is surprising given the level of cult classic that this movie is. I'm really surprised that it was hard to find clips. So, happens earlier in the day is Sam goes. So we're gonna roll back time a little bit. Sam goes around while Michael's doing his thing. Sam is doing his thing. Mom's doing her thing because Mom goes and was she at a record shop? I don't remember what Max owned.
It was a movie store.
Yeah, that's right. It was a movie store. So
because Max needed someone to work during the day.
Right, because he didn't want to be at his shop during the day. Can't imagine why. So this is Sam meeting the Frog Brothers, and the Frog Brothers are kind of an interesting group, set of boys, because like the way I understand it is they own this store.
Their parents own the store. They're the ones that are in the corner watching nothing.
No.
They're the ones that are like the hippies chilling out.
If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
Are you guys sniffing on newsprint or something?
You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you? Well, I'll tell you something. You don't know shit, buddy.
Yeah. You think we just work in a comic book store for our folks, huh?
Actually, I thought it was a bakery.
This is just our cover. We're dedicated to a higher purpose. We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way. Hey, man. Read this.
I told you.
Now that I know where Corey Feldman was supposed to draw his inspiration from, I can't unsee it.
Now that you've told it to me earlier, I can't either, because I'm just like, wow, that explains the bandana. That explains, like, all of the, like, stiff acting that he had in this movie.
So, like, Corey Feldman, when Joel Schumacher talked to him, you know, he did the reading for Edgar, the Frog Brother, and then he went, I need you to butch it up, and gives him Rambo and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and said, this is what you need to act like. And hence why he has, like, the bandana from, like, First Blood of Rambo, and he's wearing the camo shirt. Like, it's just watching how he's like, and you're supposed to be super serious. You're not supposed to be funny, which leads to the comedy of this.
It really does, because he's just so stiff. Now, one of the things that I do like about this scene with Sam is that, like, he doesn't really fit in here initially. Like, the way they're kind of hounding him, like, they're kind of almost trying to drive him out of the store. And then he just lays into them about how they have their comic books laid out and how they're mixing comics inappropriately, and they couldn't have these things here or these things there because, you know, you don't even know about this shit yet, and, you know, that happens 12 issues from now. Why do you have this one here? Like, it doesn't belong here. Like,
so he basically schools them on geek knowledge.
Yes, he does. He totally schools them on geek knowledge and is like, hello, get your shit together. You know, but this whole time they're like, we have our shit together. We're dedicated to the task. Here, take this. You'll need it.
I don't like horror comics. Why are you giving me a horror comic?
You might need it later.
No foreshadowing at all with that.
None at all. And I don't know how much more this one continues. I think this was almost done. Yeah, that was pretty much the end of that clip. So that's Sam meeting the Frog Brothers and, like, moving on to, you know, his position in the story. And his position in the story obviously is, like, the savior position. which is why he's got the like, oh, here, you've already made this connection, you know, here's the comic that tells you everything you need to know because we wrote it ourselves, and you have to watch out for vampires, and these are all the signs, and blah, 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 all that,
So
all that good
it's
coverage.
like his first, them and the comic is like his first mentor on this hero's journey.
Yeah, it really is. Well, because then he goes home and he actually reads this comic, and he buys into it.
Mhm.
Like, he doesn't have any, like, second thoughts. He buys into that comic. I really, like, I want to know what they wrote in that comic, because I'm kind of like, what did you write that made him buy in so easily? Like, either he already had a really tight tinfoil hat, or that was a really well-written comic. I'm just saying.
And I wonder if they wrote it about Santa Clara, being like, hey, if you see this or this.
Right, exactly. I mean, and that is always the possibility. It's very hard to say. But this was his thing. This was his journey, his piece. I don't remember what was next in this. As the next part, the next part is the part where
Should have been the worms and
where Michael finally where he's taken to the den, right?
Yeah, where he should have been going to the den and they did the Chinese food.
Yeah. Oh, before we do this, we have to talk about who's in this scene.
Oh, yeah.
Before we do this, we have to talk about one of the best vamps in the whole thing. Like, are you guys ready? Because this is like grade A vamp right here. There you go.
Alex Winters.
I can never not see him as Bill. Like, he's so, like, I don't even know how they thought he would pass off as a vampire. I was so blown away by that idea.
I mean, he's very 80s.
He is very 80s. I mean, shit, check out that permed hair.
I know, the perm and the mullet.
And not only that, did you notice that they took his mullet, like, either he's wearing a wig or they had him grow his hair out. But not only that, but they then straightened the perm out of it and then recrimped it so it still was wavy.
Yep.
God, man, 80s and crimpers.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that was no.
I was not a fan of crimpers, but I had a friend who had one, and I was like, why? Like, I mean, you guys see my hair on the stream. It's already wavy enough. I don't need to add extra wave to my hair.
I was one of those kids that would want the whole crimped hair, and my mom would sit there before I went to school and would crimp it. I don't know how she had the patience to do that. I would have been like, fuck, Ken, I'm sorry. If you want to do this, you gotta do it on your own.
You know, it's amazing what you'll do for your kids. If my daughter came along and was like, Mom, straighten my hair, because she has really curly hair. If she was like, straighten my hair before I go to school, I would take the time to straighten it. Although I've already told her, I was like, if you want your hair straightened, we have to pre-straighten at night before you go to bed. Because her hair is so curly. Like, it looks like his hair, but without the perm. Like, her hair's just naturally like that. So I'm like, it takes like 45 minutes to straighten it out. And then in the morning, it's partially curled back up again. So I'm like, we gotta pre-straighten. We're gonna straighten the night before. That way in the morning, I can straighten it and make it nice and straight and style your hair. And it won't take an hour and a half to do. So I don't understand how any parent had the patience to crimp, because crimping was a pain in the ass. Because it's like, here, take a section of hair, now crimp, now undo it, now crimp again, but make sure you don't, like, miss and, like, have a straight spot. Like, you gotta overlap your crimp so that, oh, it's just too much work. Way and
too I had
much
long,
work.
like, I had down to the middle of my back hair then.
Oh, fuck that. Oh my god. So anyway, we've devolved into a hair care stream. No.
No.
Crimpers destroyed your hair. Let's be honest. Like, that's so much heat across all your hair. I mean, straighteners aren't any better, but, you know, crimping was terrible for your hair. Just saying. Just saying. But
that's why it was all frizz. That's why everybody's hair frizzed out in the 80s.
It really was. Yeah, you thought they spent all that time teasing. No, really what they did is they crimped, then they ran a boar's hair brush through it, and then they teased it a little bit, and it was like... Oh, I've been split. We lost Nicki. This happens to you way too much.
I don't understand why it does this.
I don't either. Should switch.
Because I have it direct lined in.
It's so weird.
I don't get it.
It cracks me up. Because when it happens, I'm just like,
So, they're at the den now.
They are at the den now. So now that we got past Alex Winters, this is the den scene.
Feeding time, come and get it, boys.
And fun fact, Ben Stiller almost got cast as Michael.
Ben Stiller almost got cast as Michael? Wow. That would have been terrifying. I'm just gonna say that honestly.
Chinese. Good choice.
Over here, bud.
Yes, first. You don't like rice? Tell me, Michael, how could a billion Chinese people be wrong? Come on. How are those maggots? Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste?
Leave him alone.
Hey, you know, I'm just gonna say, they're high in protein.
They are.
You watched this once and didn't watch it again, Denver Bear Hunter? I mean, honestly, okay, so as a kid, the maggot scene is a little terrifying. If you're watching this movie as a kid, like, the last thing you want to do is see somebody eating bugs. This could really, like, cause issues for you. We want to talk about the fact that everybody eats a little bit of bug every day, but hey.
I mean, this kind of plays into the hazing that happens in social groups.
Absolutely. Especially when you try to join these kinds of, like, gangs. Like, hazing rituals, especially in the 80s, were a pretty big thing, you know, with any group that you joined into. There was some form of, like, hazing that took place in, you know, one way or another, whether it was, you know, just the kind of event you had to participate in, or, you know, this kind of level of intense teasing that takes place.
And this scene, along with, like, the train scene, is showing how far Michael is willing to go to be a part of this group, to be accepted.
Right, to fit in somewhere, because he doesn't feel like, you know, they just moved to this town, he doesn't have any friends, he doesn't fit in anywhere, and this is the first group of people that he's sort of connected with. I don't remember, what else is in this scene?
Worms.
Normally I remember much more about what's in each scene.
It should also be, like, drinking of the blood, too.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. No hard feelings, huh?
No.
Why don't you try some noodles?
They're worms.
I mean, they're worms. Tony! They're only noodles, Michael.
That's enough.
I love how protective Star wants to be of him during this scene. Like, oh, stop it, don't tease him like that, that's enough. Like, she really wants to, like, try and keep him from, like, being subjected to their, like, kind of asshole-ish behavior.
Right. Look at that bottle.
That bottle is spectacular.
Drink some of this, Michael. Be one of us.
Look at that fruit punch. That's the most diluted blood I've ever seen.
It's just plasma.
Don't. You don't have to, Michael. It's blood.
Yeah, sure.
So, Michael drinks the blood. Because after all of the maggots and worms tricks, he doesn't believe
That's
that
actually
it's
blood.
actually blood. And I kind of feel for him. Like, it's kind of like a terrible position to be in, because he really, like, the first couple of tricks were enough to, like, make him be like, no, now you're just yanking my chain again. It's not really blood.
Yeah, as like, you know, Kiefer and the rest of them are gaslighting him.
Mm-hmm. And then you get the peer pressure portion of it, you know, be one of us. One of us. One of us. One of us. We just peer pressured somebody into playing Final Fantasy XIV. So, I mean, it really was just shitty behavior, because they really do. Like, they're gaslighting Michael, she's trying to protect Michael, but he just, I mean, come on.
He
just
wants to
doesn't-
be one of the dudes.
He wants to be one of the boys, you know? He doesn't want to be an outsider. He wants to belong somewhere, and he doesn't feel like he can belong anywhere without participating in the little ritual, so to speak.
And let's face it, the strongest motivator for humans is to belong to a group.
That's absolutely true. We do like to belong to our groups. We really get into that us versus them mentality. And, you know, there's the group that we belong to. That's the us. The other groups, you know, there's the us, there's the other, or the them. We really like to have our tight-knit communities. And this is the community he's willing to step up to and join. And part of what we see, what we don't see in these clips and how we get here, is why he kind of associated with this group. He didn't initially, except that they all had a common theme that he bonded with, which was actually motorcycles.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about the motorcycle scene, I know we don't have it, when Kiefer was supposed to do the wheelie with Star.
We do have that with him with Star. We have a media, the still of that.
He, for that scene, he was trying to impress some other girl that was on the boardwalk that day when they were filming, and he actually broke his wrist. So then they had to put him in gloves. They had to reconfigure the motorcycle on how gears are changing, because they did all their own stunts. And when Gemma gets on the back, or Star gets on the back, she's like, "Do you think you can drive this thing?" Because she didn't know that his hand was broken. He went, "I don't know, we're going to find out." So when she screams in the movie, that's a legit scream.
Oh, that's harsh. But you know what? Serves him right. The testosterone-fueled show-off. He'll pay the
Break
price.
your wrist, and now you get to figure out how to drive a motorcycle basically one-handed.
That's rough. That's really rough. And so, did he break his right or left, do you know?
Oh, God, which one was it? It was I think it was the left one.
Oh, so, well, I mean, that's good, because isn't that where the gear shift... Well, no, because gear shifting is on your foot. The clutch, though, I think is...
The clutch is on your right.
Is it on your right? Yeah. Okay, so is
you
the
have
gas.
brakes on both hands.
Yeah. It just cracks me up. I did not realize he had broken his wrist. But, so that's the thing that Michael bonded with them over. Otherwise, he didn't really fit with their type. like who they were wasn't really Michael's scene. And he does try to kind of force himself into the role as he becomes one of the group. I don't know if we have a picture of that. I don't think we do.
And with the motorcycle, kind of like I think that was like the first, wasn't a, I don't want to say ritual, but it was, I guess, audition or weeding out process.
Yeah, because they asked him to keep up, and he was like, I can't keep up with your bikes. And they said, well, you know, you just really got to follow along. And they take him to the very, like, brink. They wanted to see how far he would go, is really what they were after.
And he almost went over the cliff.
He did almost go over the cliff, and then he got mad at them, and they were like, oh, haha, funny, you know, typical asshole maneuvers. There's a lot of toxic masculinity in this movie, let's be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of toxic masculinity. But this again comes back to that whole ritualized behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep up with us? If you can keep up with this, let's find out how far you're willing to go while you're keeping up with us. And if you really push it to the limit, if you go as far as we can think you can go, then we're going to let you join our club. And that's kind of what he does. And that's what happens. And so he becomes one of them de facto before drinking the blood.
And that's the same kind of mentality that you see in not just gangs, like street gangs, you also see it in military groups. If you can hang with us, you have to keep up. You have to score so high on the PT test to be considered in the squad or like a good member of the squad.
I mean, you even see it with, I would even go so far as to say you even see that with your high school and middle school sports teams.
Oh yes, most definitely.
You know, if you're not pulling your weight, it's a problem. Like, if you can't keep up with us, like, you do your own thing. Like, don't hang out with the people who are, you know, doing the better. And yeah, you're right. Too much trying to force someone to fit in with you. But it's less forcing someone else to fit in with you. That's, like, hazing rituals aren't about forcing other people to fit in with you. They're about seeing if someone is willing to go the distance with you. Think of it as, like, it's a bonding ritual. It's the, will you trust me enough to do this? You don't know me, but can you trust me? And therefore, by extension, I can trust you. The problem comes is that the people who then participate and get through that, they then force themselves to fit in. They become the square peg in a round hole until they're finally a round peg in a round hole.
And if you have multiple people going through it at the same time, then you almost get like this trauma bonding experience.
Correct.
We went through it together, thus we are now bonded. We are family within this particular event.
Right. And so it's, don't think of it so much Denver Bear Hunter as trying to force someone else to fit in with you. It's really more about, it's sadly in a sadistic kind of way, can I trust you? If you do this thing, then I'm putting my implicit trust in you, and you're already putting your implicit trust in me. And then you're going to force yourself to fit in with us because we've taken you this far. It's really a very dick maneuver to do, but it's what you see a lot with these kind of ritualized things that happen in large groups or small cliques, right? Even your popular kids at school had their own little thing, their own little, like, their clique wasn't easy to get into. If you belonged to it, you belonged to it. If you didn't, you didn't. And to fit in with it, you had to meet certain criteria, right? The criteria for meeting most of these cliques is usually some sort of mutual trust. You don't remember it, but you never saw it, and that's why you can't remember it. That's doesn't even... We're done. So, like, cliques get weird, and that's what you have to think of this as. These vamps are their own little clique. They're their own little group. They're off doing their own thing, living their lives, whatever. So, after the blood scene, is the train scene. Which this, honestly, was probably one of the most... Well, this, and then I want to say the next one was... Nanook was kind of scary. Nanook is their dog. We haven't introduced Nanook yet. And then the other one has to do with the hellhound.
Thorn.
Thorn, yes. I don't know. Do we have anything that introduced Thorn?
No, we only
No.
have the still of Thorn because there again cannot find the clips.
That's crazy. All right, well, let's check out the one of us scene
think we
because
should let Michael
this
know.
is the scene where Michael's after Michael drank the blood. Star's kind of like disappointed because Michael went through with it, and they take Michael out to this space here.
What's going on? Yeah. Michael.
Good night, Michael. Bombs away! Bottoms up, man.
They're just like, whatever, we're just gonna jump off now.
Come with us, Michael.
Hey, Michael! Michael Emerson! Come on down!
So I want to take a minute and talk about how foggy this valley is.
Right.
Like, that is some intense fog in this valley. All sorts of nope. So, one of the first things about this that you'll notice is that the first two, they jump off making noise to give him the impression of them falling far. The other two jump off with no noise. They just go and whoop. But it's kind of douchey what they did because, as far as Michael knows, they just literally jumped off this train tracks. There's nothing for him to know that they didn't just, like, jump to their deaths, except for the fact that they then start calling his name.
This is like almost the ultimate trust fall exercise.
Right? This is like your ropes course without the ropes.
I mean, I did a whole bunch of ropes courses and climbing stuff in like my teens and 20s and 30s. If I did not have safety equipment, I would totally not fucking do this.
Right. Especially for what's gonna happen. So let's keep watching the scene a little bit more because now what's coming is just like it's kind of the cream of the crop here. Like, because it's really shitty, and honestly, well, yeah. This is probably one of those scenes that as a kid I was just like, oh god, that's terrifying.
Welcome aboard, Michael!
So sarcasm. So that's just some grade A asshole maneuvering right there. Like, train, no way you're holding on with a train rolling over your ass like that. Like, the vibrations alone are gonna cause you to let go. You're not gonna be able to keep your grip. 2, they haven't even told Michael what's really happening here. They were literally, remember that part where we were talking about trauma bonding through your hazing ritual? This is it. Right here.
And then, like, where the kind of the romanticism comes in is when Michael drops, and then Kiefer catches him. And so you have this very intimate connection that they start to form there.
Right, and does this play out through that? I didn't get a chance to watch these, so talk about every single thing that will throw up anxiety in anyone with trust issues. Yeah.
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 Red flag. Red flag.
I love how they're all calling him.
Right.
I never noticed that undertone laugh from Kiefer Sutherland. As Michael's fingers are slipping, he's like, oh, damn, that's just vicious, mate.
Yeah. Totally reminds me of the ball scene from Labyrinth.
Without all the hands.
Right. Well, there weren't hands in the ball scene, the ballroom scene.
Oh, the ballroom scene. I thought you said the fall scene.
Mm-mm.
So, and then Michael is on his bed. Isn't that cute? It was all just a dream, Michael. I love how bad that fall scene was.
Right.
Like, as I watch it now, like, did they just have him standing there going...
I mean, that they could have.
That's really what it looks like. Like, I'm just like, you guys could have just had him fall. Like, 30 feet onto a mat.
It's like, I'm actually hearing David Bowie as the world falls down. While he's falling in the fall.
So this is David's next day, or not David, Michael's next day after he drank the blood, after he went through his little hazing ritual. He wakes up and he's already feeling the effects of sunlight not my friend.
I don't want to get up.
I don't want to be up. It hurts my eyes. I need to wear my sunglasses.
I think his mom actually is getting on his case or nagging him, hey, you need to do things, you need to do more around here.
Yeah. And then, so nothing really happens that day. She goes to work at the video store.
Mm-hmm.
Michael goes on doesn't he, go on a hunt for Star?
Yes.
And then, does he come back to Sam that evening for the whole, scene?
Yeah, because Sam spent the day with Grandpa.
Right.
And they went to town and they didn't go to town. That was the car scene of, yep, that's as close to town as I get these days.
Yep. Yeah.
And Sam's like, what?
What? Yeah. So then we have this whole scene with Nanook. And Nanook, honestly, he was their dog. Or she was their dog. And I know you're like, I don't know either. And
I didn't pay close attention to the genitals.
Why not? Jeez. That's so
I'm not whiffing here, man. Not yiffing or whiffing.
So this is the scene where we start to also understand, okay, maybe Michael just had a hangover at the beginning of the day. But this is the scene where we start to realize that definitely... Did you say genitals?
No, I said genitalia.
Genitalia, genitals, jeez Louise.
Genitals.
We also see this is the scene where, we start to realize that something actually is different about Michael because of the way his own dog is responding to him. That dog attack, yo.
Yep.
That dog was like, don't come anywhere near here.
Don't come near my human. I fuck you up.
Not having it. Not having it. You know, and then Sam is like freaking out about the whole thing. And he starts rushing out. Like, we see him get up out of the bathtub, you know, because he was whatever. And he comes rushing down the stairs.
And he was like, what the hell are you doing to my dog?
Right. Rightfully so.
Right?
Michael? Mike, what happened?
Nanook.
What about Nanook? What'd you do to my dog, you
His
asshole?
hand is missed.
Nothing. I didn't hurt him. He bit me. This is my blood.
Why'd he bite you, Mike? Huh? What'd you do to him?
He was protecting you.
Look at your reflection in the mirror.
He notices his reflection.
You're creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book.
You're a creature of the night, Michael, just out of a comic book. So there's an interesting theory about why vampires couldn't see their reflections in mirrors. And I think I told you about this before. Now, the funny thing is that in modern mirrors, that wouldn't be the case. Vampires would have no trouble seeing their reflections in modern mirrors. But the reason why in mirrors of yore that they couldn't was because they were actually lined with silver to create the reflective surface. And thus, because silver undead, things like that don't mix, they couldn't see the reflections in mirrors because of the silver. But hey, you know, vampires, yay! I'm sorry, vamps are my thing. Like, I like vamps. Vamps are good. We should do more vampire movies. I want to do more vampire movies. But
I'm hearing you bid for vampire movies.
I always bid for vampire movies. And that reminds me, guys, we need some more suggestions from the viewership out there. We haven't had very many. We're starting to look at like what we need to do next month for our movie. And we're getting a little low on suggestions because we try to do one of ours and then one of the suggestions that you guys give us. So just a heads up that if you've got a movie out there that you're thinking about that you'd like to really see TMTTU tear down, by all means, pop it in our suggestion box down below. It helps us out. Also, so he runs off to get his comic book at this point and is like, see. Right? But he doesn't want to stake his brother. He wants to try and help his brother. Hubby suggests Twilight. We will never do Twilight. It will never grace this screen. It will never be on anything here. There is nothing to discuss about Twilight other than how everyone should take every copy of that book and or DVD or Blu-ray or VHS tape and burn it.
I mean, we could break down the codependent and stalkery nature between Bella and Edward.
I mean, I suppose we could, yes.
And Jacob.
Ferngully.
Ferngully? How did Ferngully traumatize you?
Yeah,
Kai?
I want to know how did Ferngully traumatize you, please? Fox and the Hound. That's I think you meant Fox and the Hound. There's a traumatic movie.
Bambi.
The
Big Bad. Tim Curry. Oh man, Tim Curry was excellent in Ferngully.
Sludge Man is terrifying. I don't like if it's just one. Well, I guess we could do it. I don't know. I don't remember anything in Ferngully that was terrifying. But
I mean,
remember,
it talks about animal cruelty.
Yeah.
Cutting down the forest, deforestation. The Sludge Man. I just saw the Sludge Man as being like over erotic for a kids show.
Alright, now maybe we actually do need to do Ferngully. Like...
I can quote this movie verbatim, so it's not a problem.
So there's a thing. Oh wow, that would be an easy breakdown then. So there's this whole thing happening, right? And you know, he's trying to let Michael know, like, starts to clue Michael in as to what's happening to him, starts to tell Michael about what's going on, what he should expect, etc., etc. And from there, you know, Sam then goes to the Frog Brothers and is like, my bro's a vamp.
But he hasn't fed yet, so he's not totally turned.
Right.
Because he's only a half vamp or a quarter vamp.
Yeah, he hasn't fed, so he's not a true vamp yet. Kind of like Star. She hasn't fed, so she's not a true vamp yet. Yeah, she's only partially a bloodsucker.
Only mostly dead.
So, then what we don't see, because we don't have a clip of it, is the sexual harassment at work.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get ahead, date your boss. We don't have any of that. But what we do have is the boss coming to the house for dinner because he's been hitting on Mom.
And they think he's the head vamp, so it's...
Right, and they think he's the head vamp.
Lucy, this looks terrific.
Well, I hope it tastes good.
Mmm. Oh, wonderful.
Boy, somebody around here has bad breath. No, would you quit breathing on me?
No, get upstairs. Go on.
I actually think he was like one of the perfect people to be cast as Max. Because he's like this like dopey dad figure.
Thank you very much.
Sam grated the cheese himself. My son.
He really is.
Chef of the family.
How do you not know that's not cheese? Because that even looks like...
No, it's not cheese. It's garlic.
How would you not
They
notice?
hate garlic, don't you?
I know. I mean, it would smell.
It's just a little much. It's raw garlic.
Garlic? How did that happen?
Corey Feldman.
Here, quick, drink some water.
Whoa! Sam, what's the matter with you?
Does it burn?
Burn? What are you, nuts? It's freezing.
Oh, look at your suit, Max, and your pants. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's right.
Gosh.
Now what?
Must be circuit breaker, Mom.
He's not glowing.
I know. Hit the light.
Ah! Sam, what has gotten into you tonight?
I think I know what's going on around here tonight.
You do?
Yeah. I know what you're thinking, Sam, but you're wrong.
I am?
Yeah. I'm not trying to replace your father or steal your mother away from you. I would just like to be your friend, that's all.
Aww. Stepdads as friends.
I mean, this scene is almost like 80s sitcom-y, where like we have like the blended family that's trying to come together, and we have the learning moment of, I'm not trying to replace your father.
Right? Honest, I'm not. I just want to be your friend.
I just want to be your friend. And like all the testing, he's like, I know you're trying to test me, and
You're trying to make me lose my cool. Don't.
but I just want to get to know you because I like your mom.
He is a little obsessed with her. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he is pretty obsessed with her.
Like, I mean a lot obsessed.
But she was the target the whole time.
She was. You're right. It was never the boys. The boys weren't the targets.
Yeah, the boys were the pawns to bring her into the fold.
So they do all this. And then eventually, wow, we really did not get a lot of clips, did we?
Nope. I found a lot of deleted scenes.
Yeah, well, because then we're going to get to those. Those are grandpa moments.
Those are great.
So what I miss from here is, Mom wants to apologize. This is where we meet Thorn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we actually met Thorn originally back at the video store.
Right.
But she goes to Max's house to take him an apology for what happened at dinner.
I think is when she like ran out on dinner. When Michael got his bit.
Was it after Michael ran out on dinner?
Yeah, because in the beginning they went to dinner, and that's when Michael got his hand bit by Nanook, and then Sam called Mom saying stuff was happening. She left. Suddenly, didn't even tell.
Oh, that's right.
Max
Dinner at the house was the second try.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. But this is Nanook.
Nanook or Thorn?
Or, I'm sorry, Thorn. Not Nanook. Thorn. Thorn is Max's dog. And Thorn is kind of a dick. Let's be honest. Thorn is
the hound from hell. Literally, he's a hound from hell.
Yes, he's a hellhound. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Obviously, I mean, we already kind of talked about it. Max is, the big bad of the show. Do we have... I think I do. Is this really, like, the image you have of him?
I have two different ones.
I love this one. So, Max. Wow. I almost have to, like, zoom in here.
Yeah.
He almost really doesn't look that different.
No, like, that's him in the 80s. Then you have I'm going to change into the vampire makeup, and then you have him now.
Right. He really doesn't look that different. A little heavier.
Yeah, a little heavier. Nose is a little more rounder.
Yeah.
But other than that, pretty much the same. So I like how Joel Schumacher did this whole where we look like humans and then we changed with this headpiece. And that actually influenced Joss Whedon's characters in Buffy.
Oh, did you get confirmation of that? I know we had talked about it.
It inspired it. And in fact, Kiefer Sutherland's character inspired James Master's character of Spike.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. I can see that. That's actually kind of a cool progression of how Lost Boys actually wormed its way into other hugely popular pop culture things.
Mm-hmm. Like James Masters mixed Kiefer's character in with Billy Idol. And then you get Spike.
So Thorn happens, and then that same day, the boys, and by the boys I mean Sam and the Frog Brothers, set out to kill Vamps in the Nest. They want to get the Vamps before they can get anybody else.
Come on, guys, looks like a dead end. Let's head back, huh?
By the way, this is the Goonies moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing here. Let's go, guys.
I wonder if this was like the same set as the Goonies.
That crimped hair again.
I thought they were supposed to be in coffins.
That's what this
I wonder if they're going to show the feet. I forgot if they showed the feet or not.
Right now, they're at the most vulnerable. Easy pickings. Remember, you just have to kill a leader, huh? We don't know which one the leader is. I guess we'll just have to kill them all. We'll start with the little one. First come, first staked. What was that? A little vampire humor? Or was it funny? No, don't even!
Good night, bloodsucker.
No!
are serious vampire hunters, terrified of what they're doing. This is obviously their first kill.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I really feel like they have never killed a vampire before. And
right? And then this is like
shows.
Right, exactly. They're like, oh yeah, let's be terrified and paranoid and absolutely freak out about what's happening. Also,
yeah, we're gonna
longest vampire death scene ever.
It was the tentative. I don't know. I think the ruining the plumbing was pretty long.
I mean, okay, that was gratuitously long. That's true. But I mean, like, this is the whole, like, writhing and, like, blood spurting everywhere part of this scene is just really intense. The next scene we have is actually vampires killing plumbing, which is hilarious, by the way, as much as it is traumatizing. So, like, this moment where this happens, I remember watching it when I was younger, and I was like, okay, that was kind of scary. Like, because it's just so much yelling and screaming and, like, blood everywhere. And it was kind of an intense scene. It doesn't slow down. So from this moment forward, the movie really picks up pace. This is the moment where the movie really, like, pushes, like, we've kind of come over the hill and we're, like, we've already hit, like, this is the climactic moment, and now we're all downhill from here about where we're going with what's happening. So we go right from this to, like, the day ending, and I don't think we have the scene, but this is where the boys rush back to the house, they get Michael, they steal Grandpa's car, they run out, and they find Star, and they find Eddie Munster, and they all come back to Grandpa's house, and they set up shop and wait for night to come.
And then Grandpa's cameo, which we'll see in the clips. What's the rule about taking the car?
Yes, what is the rule about taking the car? Put the gas back in the damn car. So they set up shop, and when they set up shop at the house, they try to prepare for the vampires in every way possible. So we have the nice 80s montage where they run around town and gather supplies. You know, they dip into a church during a baptism, and they fill canteens full of holy water, and you know, they head out from that with those, and then they go and they get a bunch of other things. I forgot what it was that they went and got, but
garlic, steaks.
Oh yeah, they have like this 50-pound bag of garlic. I want to know where somebody gets a 50-pound bag of garlic.
Santa Clara, because damn vampires.
The problem with living in Santa Clara. Oh, the damn vampires. So, let's get on to some vampire slaying, because I think this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, honestly, is at this end of the...
Hey! You're mine! You killed Marco! Yeah, you're next! No, you're next! Garlic don't work, boys! I only want her death breath!
Nanook to the rescue!
Is it just me, or does it look like somebody totally threw a stuffed Nanook on him? Like, here's this giant stuffed Malamute. Let me hurl it at him.
Yes, he did just drop kick the guy into the tub. And he's like, yeah, I did that. Totally Gremlins moment.
Oh yeah, complete Gremlins moment.
Right? This is why vampires fuck up your plumbing.
Vampires absolutely fucking wreck plumbing. If you're gonna kill a vamp, please don't do it in your bathtub, because obviously, once it goes down the drain, it wreaks havoc on everything and will cause your toilet, apparently, to fucking explode.
And even pipes downstairs
you know what
to
it is?
start
You know what it
gurgle.
is? I'm gonna blame low-flow toilets. That was a low-flow toilet. Obviously,
Did they have those in the 80s?
No, I'm being an ass. They couldn't handle the pressure.
It couldn't handle the truth.
So bless the water in a pool. Yes, bless the water in a pool. That is right. So honestly, what I love about this scene, so there's a lot of things that I love about this scene. Anybody that's watched the show or listened to the show, you guys know I'm a huge fan of practical effects. The effects that they use in this scene as he's dying in the holy water, like the slow, like, they give him that, like, sheeny, oily, glossy, like, my face is melting, and they start punching holes in the face, and then at the very end they have the, like, plastic skeleton come up out of the water, which I really like, and then the jaw drop open, and it's like, you know, and that's, like, the end of it, and then he dies, right? But it's really good work in terms of, like, practical makeup effects. As you see this slow, like, degeneration, like, the water is, like, tearing apart his skin and breaking him down. Like, I don't know. I like this scene. Totally gross. Totally traumatizing when I was a kid. I look at it now and I'm just like, this scene is hilarious. It's so campy, it's funny. I'm like, what about this was scary, right?
And it's dry ice, gurgling water, and lights.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what all the smoke is all dry ice.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I wondered if they just dropped dry ice in water, because that would make it bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
You don't only need a little bit. Too much, and it shit explodes.
Just a little bit.
So, I mean, it's a really cool scene. It's a really cool, like, way to do that whole thing. The plumbing, yes, those stains are never coming out. The plumbing, exploding, I gotta give it to them. Like, setting up all of that, like, having the plumbing just, like, completely lose itself. Like, could you imagine the guy on the other end who's got, like, the 80-gallon tank of this, like, red liquid goo shit that's got to pump it all back through these pipelines, is, like, waiting for his cue to just, like, throw the switch and let it rip? We're gonna pump all of this, like, reddish gooey slime through all the pipes now. Everybody have fun.
You know, if I was a housekeeper or somebody who, like, cleaned bathrooms on the regular, that scene would be traumatizing to me.
So what I'm hearing is you don't clean your bathroom on the regular? What?
I clean my bathroom on the regular. But someone who does, like, cleaning for a living.
Yes, yes. I would not want to be a house cleaner in Santa Clara for this exact reason. How many vampires die in bathtubs? I really want to see the statistics from Santa Clara on number of vampire deaths in a bathtub.
Wait, we've got to talk to Grandpa at some point.
Obviously, Grandpa has the fucking 411 on this shit, so yeah, we do need to talk to Grandpa about it. So... oh man, then we get to the... So this is... All the boys are dying at this point. The Frog Brothers are living up to their name as vampire hunters, and Sam and Michael are doing their part too, and vamps are getting whacked. So, as all the boys are sort of dying... we get to, unfortunately, we still call him Eddie Munster. I forget his name in the movie.
I do too.
We do see several foreshadow events about how there's a wanted, or not a wanted, but a, missing child poster for Eddie Munster here.
Are you okay? I nailed one of them downstairs with a bow and arrow. All right, Sambo. We trashed the one that looks like Twisted Sister. Totally annihilated his night-stalking ass. Well, then look out a little. The knock. Death to all vampires. Maximum body count. They're awesome monster bastards. The meanest. The baddest.
I want to point out that he's only freaking out because they were like, death to all vampires. Also, how was there that much shit in that bed?
Right. Well, he like burst through the
Through the
mattress.
box spring, which has not hardly anything in it, then through the mattress. But where did all of that shit come from? Like,
I want to know where like the ribbons of toilet paper came from.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what was this mattress stuffed with? Was Grandpa like, this is my secret stash of toilet paper?
I mean, Grandpa stuffs a lot of things, so I think a mattress is not out of the question.
I mean, that is fair. Grandpa is a taxidermist. He does like to stuff animals.
But also noticing that the kid vampire didn't attack them. He like ran over them into the corner.
That is an important thing to take note of. I don't think there's much more to this scene than that, because that's pretty much it. Star comes in and she's like, "Don't you dare hurt him. He's just a kid. You know, he hasn't hurt anybody. You know, he's just like," and the kid itself, you know, he's just freaking out. And it's not his fault. Of course, he's fucking terrified. He's scared. How could he not be? He literally just listened to them say, "Death to all vamps," and he is a vamp. You know, this poor kid is a vampire.
Could you imagine being that young and being turned, and how confusing that is?
Right, and that brings us back to our Claudia discussion, because how is it fair to turn someone that young? And even Lestat, let's be honest, we're cut movies here for a second. Even Lestat was pissed about the Claudia turn.
Yeah, well, that was like an unwritten rule of that particular universe's vampires: is you do not turn children.
Right, turning children is not right. So, from there, we move on to, we lost. There you go, you're back.
Well, it waited a long time this time.
It did, I'm impressed. We actually missed one of the other boys dying. We missed that fight.
Yeah, we did.
But then we get to Michael versus David. And that's this scene coming right up. This is Michael versus David.
Tried to make you immortal.
You tried to make me a killer!
You are a killer.
That slow lick of the blood off of his own face. Like, what the fuck is that about?
It's like that bring it. Like, he didn't do the, you know, come at me, bro. It was that look.
My turn. Stop fighting me, Michael. I don't want to kill you. Join us. Never. It's too late. My blood is in your veins.
Soul is mine!
So, I forgot that song was a really prominent part of the whole movie.
Oh, Don't Cry, Little Sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge part. And, like, the actor who played Michael and Kiefer Sutherland both say, like, whenever they hear that song, they usually end up tearing up because it's like such an emotional song to them and what it meant in the movie. as well as you can see Michael in that scene. He's realized what it's like to kill somebody or kill something.
Right. Something that he hadn't really done before because he hadn't fallen into the he hadn't fallen into the crew yet. He hadn't bit anybody. He hadn't had his first kill yet. He had been resisting up to that point, and then here it is. It's not the kill he needs to have, but it's still a kill that he makes.
One scene that we forgot to get was the Nazi surfer scene.
Oh, yeah.
And they're rocking out, and then the boys, as in like the vampires, go and they bring Michael on his first hunt, and he refuses to kill anybody.
Yep. Yeah, that was they went and attacked a rival gang, right? Or a rival group. Isn't that what that one was?
I think it was just humans for food.
It might have been. I also remember them attacking the other group, the one that was always picking fights with them on the boardwalk.
That was the Nazi surfer group.
Yeah, okay. So yeah. And then from there, we get the big bad moment. That's
when,
this is when the true Turner of all comes into play.
The big bad monologue.
Yes, the big bad monologue, because every good bad guy has to have a monologue, right?
Right.
That's how this works, right? Good bad guys
you have to
all
reveal
have
the
monologues.
plan and everything that went with it.
Right, exactly. So we really find out now what the goal here, what the end game was, what they were really after.
But you passed the test.
Don't ever invite a vampire into your house, you silly boy. It renders you powerless.
Did you know that? Of course. Everyone knows that.
Has everyone gone crazy here? What's the matter with all of you?
It was you I was after all along, Lucy.
What?
I knew that if I could get Sam and Michael into the family, there's no way you could say no.
Where's Michael?
It was all going to be so perfect, Lucy. Just like one big happy family. Your boys and my boys.
Great. The blood-sucking Brady Bunch.
But I still want you, Lucy. I haven't changed my mind about that.
I didn't invite you this time, Max. Don't you touch my mother!
Don't fight, Lucy. It's so much better if you don't fight.
Mom! Mom, don't! Mom! Don't do it, Mom! Mom, don't do it!
Sam.
Mom, no! Mom, no!
Sam.
Mom!
I forget how bad that death is.
Oh, you gotta love Grandpa.
Grandpa at the end to save the day.
He's the one who kills the big bad.
Because he drives into him with a fucking tricked out car.
After he comes back from his date.
Playing the cucaracha, no less.
Right. Which is implying that the vampires are cockroaches. All the damn vampires.
We've got a couple of grandpa scenes.
Oh, the deleted scene is great because that kind of gives you like what he's like, and then all the deleted or all the top 5 moments.
So I really want to play them because I feel like Grandpa is like the one character who we didn't have any scenes of him, but he's like one of those characters that you really need. He makes everything else like fit because he's sort of the off-color, off-beat character that just, I don't know, like without him the movie doesn't fit. Now, one of the other things I will point out is that the timeline or the way the movie is put together, even as you watch it, is really disjointed. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of jumping around in the movie. We don't get a really smooth progression. You can follow along in the movie, but it's really hard to like. It's not smooth. I feel like the storytelling was very like, it's the 80s. Obviously, like a 3-hour movie wasn't something that was going to happen then. But this is a movie that could have benefited with a little bit more time. Even an extra half an hour would have done wonders for being able to tell this story. But let's see some of Grandpa's scenes, because Grandpa was the best.
Grandpa's amazing.
In at 5.
Well, now let me put it this way. If all the corpses buried around here was to stand up all at once, we'd have one hell of a population problem.
Number 4.
Well, we having fun or what?
I thought we were going to town.
That's as close to town as I like to get.
Number 3.
You know the rule about filling up the car with gas when you take it without asking?
No, Grandpa.
Well, now you do.
Number 2.
You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
At number 1.
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.
Fucking Grandpa, man. I'm surprised they didn't select the one scene where he goes to get his like groove on.
Right, I was trying to look for that.
Oh, that's like one of my favorite scenes. But what I love is Grandpa doesn't even question when they're carrying a girl up the stairs and they all look like death warmed over. Like they're carrying a girl and a small child. He doesn't question them about it at all. He's just like, you know the rule about filling up the car with gas after you take it, right?
No.
No? Well, now you do. And then he walks away. Like, he doesn't
just
give
like
a
casual
shit.
woodchucks it out.
Right? He's just like, cool, whatever. And he walks away. Or like, I don't know. Grandpa cracked me up. Grandpa's one of my favorite characters from this movie just because. What's the other scene that you threw in here?
If you do the deleted scene, it shows a little bit of like how he's talking to the taxidermy, and it does like, well, I better get ready tonight. If you watch it all the way through.
All right, let's check out the deleted scene for Grandpa. Deleted scene number 8.
Chill out, Nanak.
Now, you work the skin down on both sides until you reach the critter's legs. At that point, you pull the skin down over the legs until his little toes are reached.
Nanak,
That was brilliant.
this is my life. I come from a broken home. My mom works all day. My brother sleeps all day. My grandfather, he's possibly an alien, stuffs chipmunks. Here you go, bud. Pick up.
I think that's weed.
Hey! What you doing?
Nothing. Grandpa, you gotta stop doing that Indian walk.
Gotta keep in practice. It's a dying art.
Grandpa's
Wanna go
growing
down with me?
weed.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, can you blame him?
No,
He
I
lives in a
can't
town
blame him
full
at
of
all.
vampires. I would grow weed too. I mean, I would grow weed too. I mean, got nothing better to do. All in all, I'm gonna say honestly, like if I had to, I mean, let's talk here. Like, all in all, in terms of trauma from the Lost Boys, I don't know about you. I give this movie like a solid like 3-ish. It's not super traumatizing. It has its moments, but
If I'm looking at it from like an eyes of a kid, I would say about a 5 or 6, to be honest.
I mean, that's fair. Through the eyes of a kid, 5 or 6. But I think as an adult, like, you look at this movie and, like, aside from, like, just the obvious, like, what the fuck are you doing moments, it's not really that traumatic.
Right. It was pretty campy.
It is a super campy movie, but it's a cult classic.
Right.
And a lot of campy movies are cult classics, and they're, like, some of those movies that you just can't forget. Like, I mean, come on, it's like Ash versus the Evil Dead, or Ash
Right.
versus Army of Darkness. Like, come on, this is one of my favorite movies. Campy as fuck.
Right? Or Critters, or Ghoulies.
Right, like all those movies, like those older movies, are just they're campy. They're not as terrifying. They were terrifying once, but now you watch them and you're like, this movie's just funny. Like, what was scary about this? Like,
Kind of like Freddy Krueger.
wait, you know what though? The original Nightmare on Elm Street was fucking terrifying. The original Friday the 13th was fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
After, like, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, though, it got campy and corny, and, like, they turned Freddy into, like, this weird, like, joke nightmare monster.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, Denver Bear Hunter, to be still disturbed by this movie. I think movies that have... Remember, we talked about this, like, way back when with Neverending Story. Movies that have this, like, high trauma effect on you when you were a kid that disturbed you in that way probably still disturb you to this day because you remember the things about that movie that were disturbing to you. And this movie does have a lot of things in it that can cause some kind of weird disturbances. This movie's full of toxic masculinity, and we don't see a lot of it in the clip that we showed just because of the way they're cut. But this movie has a lot of that, especially between the boys. Between David and Michael, there's a whole lot of, like, toxic masculinity to go around. There's a lot of the, like, I need to play the white knight between Michael and Star. There's a lot of, you've got Grandpa who actually knows what's going on in town, but Grandpa's just so disconnected from it, he doesn't even care.
Right. He's just like, they'll figure it out. They'll be all right.
Right. Like, he literally just puts his faith in them to get by.
Or he's been, like, sniffing enough of his own tanning stuff and smoking his own weed to, like, just be blitzed and not giving a shit.
You know,
I mean, he's kind of earned it as old as he is in a vampire town. It's like, whatever.
I'm just gonna say, that actually would make a lot of sense if you consider that Grandpa is basically just blitzed from his own chemicals. Just saying. I like The Lost Boys. I think it's a solid movie that has a lot of trauma moments in it, especially for younger audiences. But I think that if you watch this movie as an adult, you realize it just needs to be I'm not one for Hollywood remakes. Let me point that out before I say this. But I do think this movie needs to be remade. I think if we made this movie today, it could be so much more than it is now.
I think the camp would be taken out of it if it was made today.
I think the camp would be taken out of it, and it would be a genuinely terrifying movie. I think if we took it today, we could actually do what the idea of it was, which was, Peter Pan with vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that concept would really have a huge, like, pull, because obviously Max is supposed to be Peter. Trying to get the family, and she's supposed to be Wendy, because that was really what Peter wanted, right? He wanted a mom for his lost boys.
Exactly. He wanted a mom, and it's about... This whole movie is about trying to blend a family and to find a place where you belong.
Except Very toxic.
Yes, except for this is like the toxic version.
You know, and the funny thing is that I think this could have been done if Max had controlled his boys.
Right, Max was an absentee father.
Max was an absentee father. He didn't pay attention to his boys. In fact, the scene, we don't see this scene, but he does scold the boys for being on the boardwalk. And he's like, I thought I told you never to come here again.
And they just laugh at him.
Yeah. Like, so they
And
have
go
no
about
respect for him because he's so absent in everything else. They just do what they want, and he doesn't try to stop them. I really think, like, you made me think of this just now. I think it would have been hilarious if Max had actually been it's a shame that he couldn't be because he does die here, but if he had been the first, like, vampire lord in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That would have been epic. But he could have been. Because in the first season of Buffy, she kills the master that was brought back to life.
That's right. Yeah, so see, that still could have been Max. Oh, they should have made it Max. That would have been hilarious, now that I think about it. But all things aside, I agree with Denver Bear Hunter. There's definitely some parts of this movie that are still disturbing. The plumbing scene, the first vampire death scene. Honestly, if we had the Nazi surfer scene, that was actually pretty disturbing. I think that not having that scene, I think, re-affected my rating because I totally spaced it. I literally, you know, out of sight, out of mind. I didn't even think about the Nazi surfer scene. I think I probably would have bumped my rating up to about a 4 with the Nazi surfer scene in there.
Because there was a lot of blood. They were all, like, the 4 guys coming up.
Yeah.
Because Michael was just watching this carnage happen. They were drenched in blood.
That's right, they were. And that scene was actually really intense as I think back on it. But, I mean, this is just one of those movies, if you've never had a chance to really sit down and watch Lost Boys, definitely watch it start to finish. It's not a bad movie. It's a little campy, it's a little 1980s cheese, but it's a lot of fun. And it's just honestly, it's a good vamp movie. It's a
fun movie.
It really, like, there's a reason it's a cult classic. There's a reason why people love this movie and still to this day, like, think about this movie. It's, you know, it's like any good cult classic. You find that niche and it fit the bill. And
I mean, I was watching a convention where they were interviewing Kiefer and the actor who played Michael, and people were standing up saying, "This is the first horror movie I showed my kids." And this was like in the early 2000s. So
right? It's, you know, I mean, if I'm going to show my kid a vampire movie, I'm probably going to go with Bram Stoker's Dracula over, and then maybe Lost Boys. Definitely never showing my kid Twilight, because that garbage can stay far, far away from my house. But, you know, that's not a fucking vampire. I don't know what that is. That's not a goddamn vampire. Whatever the fuck is in those books and those movies, that's not a vampire. That's something like, that's like a fucking changeling masquerading as a vampire. It's definitely not a vampire. So, you know, like, I'm just saying. Sorry, weird Mormon author lady whose name I can't remember other than Stephanie something.
Myers,
that's it. I'm sorry. Twilight was trite. I couldn't handle it. I read it. Don't get me wrong. I read all the books because somebody was like, read them. And, you know, I'll do anything for a hot girl. And she was like, read them. And I read them and I was like, this is fucking terrible. I will never get these hours of my life back.
I read them because the kids at the boarding school that I was working at were reading them. And I was thinking to myself, this writing is horrid.
It was fucking terrible, man. Oh, so terrible. So terrible. Not even a good story. It was so terrible.
I think my favorite vampires were the Anne Rice novels, Dracula. And I like the Anita Blake universe too by Laurel K. Hamilton. She has some good vampires there too.
You know, Stoker will always be my favorite vamp. Like, the original Dracula will always be my favorite vamp. There's just something about the way that story was written. And I think one of these days, we will do Bram Stoker's Dracula just because I think we should.
I think it's a beautiful movie.
It not only is it a beautiful movie, like the cinematography in it is amazing. The storytelling was just... I loved the book. The book is boring to a lot of people. I understand it's it's an old book. My daughter's name came from Bram Stoker's Dracula. Let's be honest. I mean, that's where I took it from. The storytelling in it is very different because of the era it was written in. It's done very much in this like journal fashion. But I like it because you're seeing the world through this character's perspective, like detailing what they went through. And then seeing the events of the other people as you're reading through their kind of journals. It's sort of like this memoir, really, of the events versus, like, being there in the moment.
Right.
And there's a lot that I could dissect about the movie, and I won't now because this was really about the Lost Boys. But still my favorite vamp of all time has to be Dracula. Has to be Bram Stoker's, like, original Dracula, not I love all the other vamps that have come since, like the Lost Boys. I loved Lestat as a vampire. We really got into the True Blood vamps too. Like I really enjoyed them. I
enjoyed
more the what was it? More the not so much True Blood, more the other the Immortals.
The Immortals were good. The originals.
The originals, that's it. The originals.
Vampire Diary.
The Vampire Diaries ones, those were... I really liked those vamps, like with Klaus and all of them. They were good vamps. They were like
Klaus.
classic
Klaus
vamps.
is a good vamp.
They were like classic vamps. They're like what you picture a vampire to be. But Lost Boys is unique. They're what you picture the vampire... They're what you picture vampires to be. We didn't see the feet, unfortunately. Trust me when I say the feet on these vamps is terrifying. These were just classic. And I loved this movie. But yeah.
And I did too, as an interesting way to challenge the family norms and challenge sexuality and all kinds of things.
Yeah, breaking apart the nuclear family is a really hard thing, and like showing that you can have mixed families is super important. And they really tried to breach that topic, like, hey, this would be like, could you imagine this is a mixed family, like these humans and these vamps, like. And that was Max's whole things, is that the boys needed a mom because he couldn't always be there. And he didn't really understand how to be there for them. He was, unfortunately, a little more traditionalist 1950s dad in that sense. Like, I don't know how to be there for my boys. That's the woman's job.
Right.
All right, Max.
But overall, good film. A lot of undertones. Different types of trauma. So yeah,
I like it. It's good. A good trauma movie to think about. Good trauma movie to watch in terms of like what you want out of it. But yeah, overall, great movie. Anyways, I want to say thanks for everybody for being here. I know we're wrapping this one up a little early tonight. We didn't quite get as sidetracked as we usually do. I'm impressed.
I think we're finding a groove.
Maybe we'll see.
Just stay on topic.
We'll see if that continues.
We got 3 suggestions for our next month's movie.
Do we? We got new ones?
Oh, like Twilight, Fern Gully.
Twilight will never happen. If you do Twilight, you're doing it without me. It'll never happen. I'm not on my stream. Not watching that. Nope. Never gonna happen. You can't pay me. Ferngully, though, I would be interested in Ferngully. That might not be a bad one to do. Although I don't see how Ferngully. But I think next month, did we decide then that we're gonna do? Are we gonna do it? Are we gonna do that fucking terrible, heartbreaking, get stung by bees?
Oh, My Girl. Oh.
My heart's already breaking just thinking about it. Shit.
I guess if we're gonna do movies that traumatized us.
All right, there it is. You heard it here. Next month is gonna be My Girl.
Yeah.
My Girl. All right, guys. Until next month, we will see you then. Have a good one. Stay safe, and avoid the trauma.
They're the movies that traumatized us.